Welcome back to the SimTech Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the world of clinical simulation, bringing you the stories, innovation, and the people behind the scenes who make it all happen. In today's special episode of Behind the Scenes, I'm joined by Dr. Joseph Buhain, who shares a fascinating journey from the high stakes world of military medicine to the cutting edge front lines of simulation design. We talk about his experience in using simulation in the armed forces, what those high pressure environments taught him, and how those lessons are now shaping his approach as he takes on the challenges of developing a brand new state of the art simulation centre. Whether you're a seasoned sim professional or just getting started in this field, this one's packed with insights, inspiration, and a look at what future simulation could look like. So, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the SimTech Podcast. Today we're going to be jumping behind the scenes, getting to know another member of its community. And to help me to do that, I've brought along a special guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks again, Craig, for the invite. So my name is Dr. Joe Buhain, Joseph Paul Buhain. I am from Fort Myers, Florida, here in the U.S.
And how's the weather doing in Florida, Joe? It's nice and warm, I
Yeah,
hope.
it's nice, it's warm, it's rainy, but rainy for like 15 minutes, and then it's back to the heat and humidity. So it's beautiful, it's hot, and just a small amount of rain.
Just enough for the plants to grow, I suspect, eh?
That's exactly, and the alligators to survive.
And how long have you been in the world of simulation, Joe?
So it began in my military career when I was doing simulation in the medical field. So if we add those, since 1988, so close to 30 years, I would say 30 plus years in there, because it's been embedded with the military for a long period of time, preparatory to the hospital setting and education setting.
Yeah, so you said you first came into simulation in the military. What did simulation look like back then?
We had the standardized patients or the actors, the role players, but then we also had the makeshift moulage, the makeshift injuries that we had to either role play or we had to improvise. But they really made it realistic. So all this immersion concept that we're seeing, the room 360 and the immersions and the sight and smell, we had that. So it's ironic that the things we learned in the military is now stemming into the EMS and to the hospital field. It's like we did that, but really, in a way that brought that to life here.
You're right, because I was also in the military for 20 years. I was a medic, but I never saw a high fidelity simulator until I actually left and joined
Oh,
the NHS. So we were big on immersion and real life actors, but not so much on the mannequins.
you're right. We just had like the Annies. So just the low fidelity mannequins that you can basically just destroy because they wanted you to move them on the ground. You wanted them to roll into the dirt. You wanted them to. You're basically carrying them, knowing that they're going to fall. We didn't want real. Well, of course, we did it on real people too, but you didn't want the real people to fall down going up a hill and going down a hill, or even teleported in a helicopter. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the low fidelity mannequins. And even now, the industry in the military is calling for high fidelity mannequins, but we are now no longer in the field, but we're also in the water. So the question comes in, is there any high fidelity mannequins that can go into the water with the same issues that we're seeing with lung movement, the electronics, and that has not been found yet. We've not found that mannequin or simulator to be able to be immersed in full water spectrum and then taken out.
God, I would hate to think how expensive such a mannequin would cost. But you know, I don't know how it is for you, but our simulation center is trying to step away from mannequins as much as possible, because when they go in and they see this plastic shell on the bed, they sell it as high fidelity, they sell it as immersive, but actually it's kind of the opposite, isn't it? You'll get a better response off of the person, reading their reactions, their the body language and the communication elements just a lot better with a real person.
You hit it right on the point. With a real person, you don't have that leeway or gap when you're communicating and if the person, the SP, knows their role effectively, they can adapt to the questions that the providers are asking them quickly. So the role players can really be the full immersion that's needed in a way when it's a role playing kind of concept. Now, the high fidelity where you have to do attention decompression or an intubation, those are the ones that become you can't do it. But for me, interactive role playing, interactive Aussies, or the ability to have that H&P done correctly, standardized patients. Now, here, I don't know if you're aware of this, but it sounds like you're on the same point that I am. We're trying to get patients with different languages also to be able to communicate. So what we're doing right now is they have these like Chat GPT AI kind of concepts where if it is a mannequin, I leave it open, and then the whatever the provider is saying, it's being read in the computer, and then basically responding back if it's a different language on that language. So that's a win for us for AI. AI, I think, is good on that aspect because we can actually pull what's being questioned, respond back to that same language in question and answer. And no longer have to do the earbuds or anything like that, or have a have a language interpreter in the room. So that I've seen is good for role playing too. That's why I bring that up. Is now I have some of these people with earbuds, and they would, if the doctor's speaking a different language, I can have the patient actually respond back small languages, but in the same kind of context with that. So
Yeah, I mean, it feels like we're in a really exciting technical age here, aren't we, where we're integrating AI into simulation. Now, I've seen a few different models. I mean, we've had one on the show, a gentleman from Australia who's created something called Sim Converse, and you can
mm,
create your own patient just using prompts, putting in. And then you can. It started off first, just typing and having a conversation, but now you can literally talk to your computer screen, and they'll talk back. Although they sound a little bit robotic at the moment, they're not perfect. It's not perfect
yeah.
dialect, but we're not far off. Are we having almost, completely a robot that can converse back to you? Really?
Yeah, I think we're so wanting to be so advanced in everything that we're again going back to that SP. The SP can have that pitch, that tone, that dialect and responding back where the emotion of the provider or the emotion of the patient can be seen or can be heard. And if it's a robot, um, sometimes you don't feel that sense of this desperateness or pain in their language. It's a robotic language that fails that low humanistic side of how we speak with pitch and tone. And I think that's the drawback with AIs. They can respond back, and they can answer stuff, but it doesn't have that humanistic side of responding.
Well, not yet. We're not quite there yet, are we? But the way that things are going, you don't know what's around the corner. I mean, you saying you've been doing simulation for 30 years, you must have seen some massive changes throughout your years.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you've come across the time where you have Annie, and you change the lungs that are plastic in there, and you even have just a low fidelity mannequins that doesn't do anything. You can't even intubate. You just carry them around, and then then from there you started seeing like, okay, we can change the legs to interosseous legs, or we can change the arms into IV arms, and we can change the head to an airway, and we went from half to full mannequins. And then all of a sudden, Laerdal comes out with this simulator with a compressor, and then now it's like, okay, or actually, I take that back. It was more of um, iStan. iStan is in the military, so iStan came out from I think it was Gamard, and it was a heavy, heavy, heavy mannequin. It took 5 or 6 soldiers to carry this thing around, and it was it was so technical in movement. So then, of course, you get all these compressors in there that you have to just maintain because in the very beginning, you had to lubricate and oil, and you had to keep it temperature gradient because any humidity changes can can rust the inside of the compressor. And then external compressor. So it goes from external to internal compressors. Then you can have IVs and internal bleeding. So yeah, it's gone. And then of course now you have, like you said, AI components where they can talk back to you. You have stroke patients that can have grimace, and I mean it's changed. In So what we're seeing right now in so it's a military defense organization. Anyway, they're creating robots. You have these robots that are dogs. You've seen them walking around. They're AI robots, and they utilize them a lot. But they're creating robots, human robots, in these other countries that can interact with you and have a conversation. So the question comes in is now we are having robots that actually walk, talk, have the same face we are, no longer just a robot. They have a conversation and walk and talk. How does that, which is made into a interactive form, playing a role in the medical field? And that's what I'm trying to find here in Florida Gulf Coast University is how do we take that emerging technology into today's generation of medical care? What are we going to do there? How do we get that dog or that android to be part of here in this world of medical care? And so part of my job is look at the immersion of technology. How does this holographic image that I have here, how do we create 3D holographic images into the medical field? So, for example, this one is called Dr. Hologram. So the question comes in is you've seen changes. So we now can create avatars that are no longer cartoons, but people like us that can have a conversation. So I have an avatar behind me of me, and I can sit back there, and as long as I have pinpoints of left and right, I can create a conversation. A student can create a conversation with me in there, allowing me to talk back without close-ended questions. So that means I don't answer yes and no. I can answer with a sentence or a question leading the student to the path. So we're doing something right now where we're trying to create conversational avatars in conjunction to humanistic ideas. In the past, we had computers that we looked at and we're like, okay, I can answer this case study through a computer. Now take that computer context, put it in here, create that humanistic avatar and have a conversation. So that's the idea there. So now I take that same concept, take it to the robot. How do I have a conversation in the medical field with a robot, identifying it? And the reason why I say this is we're short on physicians, we're short on medical providers. What do we do now? We call Voicera, we call people on the phone to get answers. And that's what we do in the hospital. They're not accessible. We call experts, radiologists to see the view. What if we created a holographic image of the doctor, basically with the same context or viewpoints that they've got, and ask the doctor through holographic imaging, what's the answer? Or create that robot with endpoints and identify that same question with a robot. I personally believe that the 20th century or the 21st, 22nd century in the future will have to have virtual reality, we'll have to have holographic imaging, and we'll have to have some type of robotic concept in there. Now, I don't know the whole humanistic robotic side, but I do believe even we're seeing it right now in like the stores. There's no longer a teller behind the stores. Everything's being checked off by computer. I believe there could be a robot in the entrance of a hospital, and that can check people in. Not necessarily critical values, but there is going to be a point where that's going to become automated.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching and listening to Stephen Bartlett's podcast where he was talking to what he called, I can't remember his name. He said he was like the godfather of AI. And one of the conversations that they were having is that AI is going to be real useful for education and in the medical world because a doctor, he has limited time on his hands. They're very, very busy, and one of the good things that AI can do is it can free up a lot of time for one person. And we saw it with like the industrial revolution where man used to dig a hole. Now actually they've got machines that can dig holes for you, and it put a lot of people out of jobs who were digging holes. But actually, what it did, it created another job for the guy that used the machines. A lot of people at the moment are worried about AI taking people's jobs. And I don't know if you've heard the phrase, it's not AI that's going to take your job. It's a person using AI that's going to take people's jobs because, they one person can now do five people's jobs if they're using AI
Mhm.
correctly. Um, do you see that kind of coming into the medical world? Do you think it's going to start to take, over
Yeah,
doctors' roles?
yeah. Craig, you hit it right on the point. Big controversy that we're seeing right now. AI is going to take over this. AI is going to take over that. And the reality is, we need people that's going to be able to create AI and, in the same token, run AI. It's got to be a manpower behind that as well. AI can limit. Can I look at it this way? AI can help man hours by reducing actual humanistic man hours and creating more efficacy in planning and management. I see AI being a point where it can support medical health. It can support time constraints, like you said, with doctors being and nurse providers not being accessible always. It can support that time management. And here I'll give you an example. In the U.S., home health has been a constant struggle. You don't see doctors or nurse practitioners out in the home. They don't. It's so difficult for them. We just don't have the manpower to have advanced providers out in the home. And what's happening right now is we are limiting ourselves to the amount of time you could be in the hospital, that they're saying for this DRG or diagnosis with this CPT coding, you're in the hospital for these amount of days and then you're discharged. So we're seeing a reduction in hospitals in stay and then onset going home. And so we're seeing an increase in need for doctors to be and providers to be in the medical home. Sometimes these patients can't go back to the clinic. So what if we took the holographic image and brought them to the patient home? And the doctor can now have a conversation through telehealth, through holographic imaging. So this one right here is also holographic imaging, where I can have a patient be standing up and down. And if the patient comes in and says, I have a neck pain, it's located here, the doctor can zoom in and say, oh my gosh, I see that. How long have you had it? And now it's a 3D holographic imaging, and they can take a picture of it, and the patient does not even need to be um, leaving his home or her home. I believe that's where AI and that's where holographic and telehealth will advance itself rather than Teams or Zoom, because you can only see the face or the arms and the leg that or arms. That's it. But what if the injury is lower? This is a great way to do it. It's called Doctor Hologram or Proto
Yeah, I think the only I've used the Hololens 2 for a while, so that's kind of my
Hololens. Yeah.
so that's kind of my limit of how to use holograms really. But it's very Star Wars, isn't it? Really, so when you first see it, experiencing the hologram.
You should do a podcast with this one. Not that this one, but through this one. Like you could do it and then have a podcast that way. It's a great incentive. I'll send you one there, and then we'll do a podcast
Yeah, like
through
a video
holographic
podcast.
imaging.
Um, so we've been speaking about tech a long time. You know, we've been saying how much tech is changing throughout your 30 years. Have you seen anything simulation theory changing? I mean, has anything drastic changed on, how we do it rather than the tech? Because it feels
Mm.
like, that simulation has always been simulation. The only things that are kind of moving and changes is the technology around it with time. But do you think anything, as learning objectives, creating this safe space, has anything drastic changed in simulation?
That's a great question. I mean, they introduce the pre-briefing and debriefing in the military. We call it AAR, the after action review.
Yeah.
So I still use that concept. The three positive needs improvement. Um, yeah, the one of the things I think that we saw different is when we had a learning objective. We set a learning objective based on a element that we trained on. But what we're seeing now is called continuity of care. How do we take that learning objective that we're trying to manage and then sustain it for continuity of care? So that means extending the simulation beyond the 15 to 30 minutes and beyond that setting. So instead of one room of simulation, now you have 3 or 4 rooms of continuity of care designed from, it could be pre-hospital to hospital to home. The continuity of care is something I'm seeing a lot more relevant right now in regards to taking that one learning objective and creating a management plan. So when we train the students here, we train them for continuity of care on every element, and we incorporate many other programs. So IPE, interprofessional education, has been something we're starting to immerse ourselves very deeply in. We do it, but we often don't do it enough. And I think a lot of programs and a lot of institutions and even health hospitals are looking closely into that.
Yeah, we do a lot of what we call MDT here, so multidisciplinary training, which is it's probably the same as IPE over
Yeah.
in the States. But again, it brings its own challenges, doesn't it? Because sometimes we get what we're trying to do is get MDT training going on, and then one specific job role won't turn up for the day. So you're a anaesthetist or something is too busy, and then it kind of leaves the course a little bit, missing those kind of roles. So sometimes it can make a really challenging day when that they don't turn up. Do you see that kind of have those same kind of challenges over in the States?
Timing. Timing. They have one group's in clinic, one group's in the hospital, one group's in getting them all timed at the same time has been difficult.
Mm.
So one of the things I do here very, very deeply is I try and do an IPE for everyone. So I do what they call a disaster day, a hurricane disaster day, an earthquake, where, I already know November 21st of the 2025, I sent it off already. We're going to have a disaster day here, a big Omega simulation. We have 3 helicopters coming in. We have ambulances coming in. It's a mass casualties of 200 to 300 patients. And all first year students from all programs will be here to do simulation, a 1 hour simulation on a mass casualty. So that's the only way I can get it set up where everyone's here at the same time, knowing that it's going to be incorporated.
I mean, how much faculty do you need to run something like that?
The faculty there, so if I have 300 students, last year I had 300 students. I had 300. I did a 1-to-1. At least 300 facilitators needed to be there. So I think I had 100 faculty and 200 subject matter experts. So these are people from the community.
Yeah, and how do you how do you display such a? Do you use debrief rooms or are they all watching live? How do people watch what's going on?
They're all incorporated in this. So the simulation happens all together.
Hmm.
So I do a pre-brief so there's 3 rooms. During in the beginning, there'll be 3 rooms. One room will be for the actors. So I'll have the 300 actors in one room being taught and moulage by the theater department. So the theater department and I have been working together. Each one of the students have been given a script and a role and an injury. So as they're getting moulage, they're being told what their injury is, and then the theater department is telling them where to be at. In the same token, we have another room where it's going to be the facilitators, the educators, and the subject matter experts. Those are the 300. They're going to be taught pre-briefing, debriefing, and simulation. What the simulation is about, preparatory to simulation, what I'm going to pre-brief the students on, and then why the debriefing is so important. So it reinforces the fact that when the simulation is done, you need to talk to them. So then I will be with the students, the 300 students who are going to be doing the simulation. We're going to talk about the importance of CPR, stop the bleed, assessment, basic fundamentals in regards to the mass casualty, because there's going to be everything from post-traumatic stress to giving birth. I had 4 mannequins giving birth last year. It's a multitude of different things, from injuries to blood and so forth. And they just before 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock, I do out of the 300, I do a mass pre-brief. This is your team, and I break it up in their teams. This is your pre-briefing. I give that information. Identify your student leader for your group. So there'll be a group of 30 students or 10 students from each group, and then identify 2 leaders. They'll be the leaders. Identify your plan of action. They'll know they'll have 20 patients or 30 patients to see, so they can break it up there before even seeing the scene. And then I go on the screen behind me and I say, this is the site that the helicopter just took a picture of. Group A, you'll be here. Group B, you'll be here. These are your patients. So I would have taken the pictures of the patients already on the ground from last year, and I just give it to them. So by this time, while I'm giving the pre-brief, the students that are moulage are now heading off to the field, and they're getting ready. The facilitators are going on the field, and then we begin the simulation right after that. So it's a process of timing that goes through. Once they go on the field, simulation begins, and then the debrief is done after that.
A little part of me hoped you were not going to tell them what was going to happen. You know, kind of surprise them with the masters. But I suppose that's probably too much chaos to control.
Yeah, I don't tell them that they're going to have a labor and delivery person, because they don't know what they're getting. I don't tell them that there's going to be there could be a child whose parent is lost, and the parent could be in a different group. Their job is to say to the child, okay, what's your parent's name? And if they're smart enough, they would say, all right, is there a parent around that's lost a child, even beyond the other groups? So I have one who only speaks sign language. My name's Joe. So they only speak sign language. So students might come in and they say, oh my gosh, she speaks sign language. But here's the thing. Throughout the year to this time, I'm also teaching sign language to certain students who want to learn. So in that group, there's someone who learns sign language. So, and I also have, I let disability students come in there to role play, whatever they want to do. I have social work, counseling, and then the helicopter's already landing. So now they get to bring the patients in the helicopter that they deem to be the most important. Because the thing here about the helicopter is the helicopter's going to say, I only have 4 spaces. Who's the most critical? You have 20 patients, and they have to decide from that group who the most critical is to send off.
Well, it sounds chaotic, and I can only imagine how busy the moulages are.
It's a lot of fun, but it is chaotic.
All right, Joe. So after about X amount of years, you left the army. What did you decide to do after you left the army, or the military, should I say?
Respiratory therapy. I became a respiratory therapist, went to school for that, got a degree in healthcare administration and a doctorate in education. So ended up going into the hospitals, worked a lot in the hospital. Mayo Clinic was the most prominent one. Ended up also taking a job as a program director for respiratory therapy. So I did that for about 20 years. And in the process there, helped build a simulation center. And that's one of the things I ended up doing, I was working in simulation throughout the process of my work. And then and
I've
created
always
that.
wanted. I've always wanted to do that, Joe. Like build my own simulation center or be part of it because I always feel
Oh,
like I'm. I always feel like I'm dealing with other people's problems because they've designed it not the way that I wanted. Things like storage. They never think about storage, do they? But it must be. Just love to tear it down and rebuild it.
and that's one of the things we tell everybody. It's no matter, there's never enough storage space. Build more than what you need, because the reality is you're going to have expendables and equipment, durable equipment that you're going to need to store. And you also have to have storage where the students can walk in. So the simulation we're designing now is we're creating two storage spaces, one for faculty staff, so that's locked and keyed, and of course another storage where students can come in, because in simulation the student might have to go get items and they need to go into the storage and get it.
Yeah, it's silly things like that that people who are not involved in simulation, they don't really think about it, do they? They just build a room and they think just a normal medical facility will do, but it's generally not the case, is it? All right then, Joe. What kind of projects you're working on at the moment?
So we're building a simulation center. Florida Gulf Coast University is creating a brand new simulation center and allied health center. So in my center, it's about 37,000 square feet of simulation space. I have a VR, two VR rooms, two AR rooms, OSSI room, four surgical suites, six ICUs, a syndaver room for a synthetic cadaver, an anatomage room for anatomical cadaver, which is digital. I have six med surg rooms, two OB rooms, two peds room, six OSSI rooms for just examinations, a doctor's examination room, and one apartment with a functional kitchen and bathroom. Everything is going to be digitalized. So there's going to be holographic imaging through all the med surg, all the debriefing rooms. I think I've got 10 debriefing rooms that allows holographic imaging to go in there. So I have 10 of those that I can zoom in and zoom out patients in and out within that debriefing room.
I mean,
So
that's
we're
pretty
trying,
cool, isn't
the
it? Really?
idea was, well, the idea was to create a simulation space that's 20 years from now, 10 to 20 years from now. When they asked me to create this, they wanted me to create a space that is not just brick and mortar. They wanted a space that you can envision what a simulation center or a hospital can be 10 years from now. And when I told them, if you make a space that's fully engaged to be just walled and universally walled, then you failed. You have to make it and design it so that it can be interchangeable and movable. So instead of like a sim center space, like an ICU room, create it to be an ICU room, but in the same token, allow it to be also a teachable room on days they're not using it as a sim space. So allow it to be interchangeable in that aspect. So so one of the first things when they met is the architects and I met. They asked me, what is a successful sim center? And I told them I've been to so many sim centers and I've designed so many that I can tell you right now, the most unsuccessful ones are empty rooms that are not being used. You've spent so much money to create this image that is not being utilized. Sim centers that are built millions and millions of dollars that is not being utilized is a wasted money, wasted space. It
No,
has to be multifaceted.
you're completely right there, Joe. Because my boss came to me and said he wanted to create a VR room, and I was like, "It's all right creating a VR room, but for 90% of the time, the room's going to be unoccupied." So we came up with I suppose it's branding. We wanted to create a multi-purpose room, so rooms that can be flexible. They can serve more than one purpose. So then, yeah, they're never empty, and they're not just very selfish, kept to one purpose, having loads of different reasons to use that room. It's a really great way of looking at things.
You're right, Craig. It's absolutely right. It's got to be multi for purpose. You got to have multi-facet use. You have to have interchangeable stuff in there because the VR rooms are just four walls. You got to create some immersion in there where it allows it to be multifaceted, or else it's wasted space.
And so, when you're building a centre, what kind of staff are you going to have working with you then, Joe? How many people?
So there's going to be four floors that we're designing. The first floor is all mental health, psychology, social work. That's the general ongoing counseling and mental health area. The second floor is where the simulation is going to be at, just in case we need to utilize it. And then third floor is nursing and PA and health science, a physician assistant, all nursing specialties on that floor. And then, of course, the fourth floor are the offices. So I'm going to have at least 6 SimOptics with me. I have, and the reason why I only wanted 6 is because I wanted to, and of course, I have information technology. I designed a room for information technology and AV because I do have Dr. Hologram, VR, and a makerspace as well. So I wanted to create that imagery or the creation of the next 20th century of emerging technology techs. I think the SimOp techs are the ones that's going to help run, but I also envision them being the IT specialists, the IT experts in the future. So I'm creating that next generation of emerging technological specialists. So
Do you
I'm going to have at least 7.
do you run the interviews for them, Joe, when they come for a job?
So right now, at this point, no, where they are not being where we have a set team that's doing it, that's doing the interviews, but it's not within. I'll oversee it, but I have a team running the interviews right now.
I'm just going to say, what do you look for when people come for a job in simulation? What kind of character are you after?
Yeah, realistically, I mean, it's someone with a good working attitude, good visionary skills, creativity, um, um, social cues, because you have to have a good social cue with each of the programs that's out there, giving capability for each of these programs to run, and being able to manipulate those conditions.
Yeah, like I say, we're going through a weird phase over it because our simulation technicians, when I speak to them, no one ever left school or college or university wanting to be a simulation technician. And most of the people that
Yeah,
go for when they go for jobs, none of them are really qualified in this kind of field because it's a little bit bespoke. Do you find that the
yeah,
same over do you find that the same
same.
over there, that they have little to no experience, but so what we're actually looking for
And,
is the character?
yeah, there's so many jobs here for simulation techs because everyone's asking for someone with experience, and there's not. There's
Mm.
no. There's you have to train the right person there for the long period of time, and then we capture that and we want to keep them. The problem is there's so many jobs they'll end up leaving for another one that's going to offer them a little bit more. And once you train them, you train them. And then of course, if you get the CHESI or CHESO certification, that's even more positive. At this university, they require like an associate or a bachelor's. In the nursing program, they require a master's degree for nursing. But I look at it for, if you have an undergrad degree, that's a plus. But realistically, we're open to training at this point.
All right, Joe. Like I said, the time would go pretty quick on these podcasts. They always do, but we're reaching the pinnacle of our time here on the podcast. Any final thoughts that you'd like to share before we sign off?
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity talking with you, Greg, and the team and everybody. And, you just continue to work on simulation for those that are not doing simulation and continue to be, just thinking outside the box. Simulation is a creativity that you want to continue. Value the patient, value the knowledge. There are a lot of subject matter experts out there, but do it right. Create the safety that patient needs and the students need. And I think just enjoy what you do. And I think that, simulation is never going to go away. It hasn't since I've been here, and it's just going to continue to grow. And I think you just, doing this podcast like what you're doing helps to entice people to understand that, we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, sometimes it's really easy to forget the bottom line and why we're doing it. Sometimes we get bogged down in all the technology and all the toys,
Yeah.
but sometimes we forget why we're actually doing it. All right, Joe. Well, thank you for coming along today. Like I say, we'd love to invite you back to maybe dig into one or two more of your projects in a little bit more depth. And it's been great to get to know you today.
You're awesome, Greg. You're very much well known here in the U.S. I appreciate all you do.
And that's it for this behind the scenes episode of the SimTech podcast. A huge thank you to Joe for sharing his story, from military simulations to pioneering a new simulation centre. It's clear that his experience and vision are helping shape in the next generation of immersive training. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe or follow so you never miss a conversation. And if you're working on something new or exciting in the world of sim, or know someone who is, get in touch. We'd love to hear you. Thanks for listening, and as always, stay curious, stay innovating, and keep pushing the boundaries of simulation.